And with that, we're going to get to the meat of today's Webinar Wednesday, and that's where Zach comes in. So I'm proud to turn this over to Zach with VMware. Take it away, Zach.
What is workforce mobility? Basically, it's the idea that your end users, the folks you are supporting day in, day out, are looking to gain access to their applications from any device possible. They want to be able to take advantage of mobility and, access those resources, whether it be from a cell phone or from a physical computer or sitting at their desk just as always. And companies, just like yourselves, just like the folks joining us today, are having to account for this. They want to deliver out these resources to their end users, and they want to do it securely. And BYOD is something that everybody is facing nowadays, all of our customers, and their approaches can be very different when it comes to how they're accommodating these users. Do we want to allow them access to corporate resources, or do we simply want to allow them to, look at their email and respond that way, but not have any access to sensitive data? And it really is the applications and the data that are the most crucial. We have to make it available. We have to make sure that the folks looking to access these resources can do exactly that, but we want to do it securely. And of course, we want to make sure that they can access that and get the same experience from any type of device. And kind of on this slide, you can see what our customers are facing. Some of this is feedback from groups who put this type of information together, and some of this feedback directly from our existing VMware customers. What are they telling us? And it's their feedback that we are using to build out these solutions that you'll see in just a second here, that fit with the customer's need. And VMware approaches this kind of in three different ways, right? We want to make it as simple as possible for IT to manage the desktops and to manage the applications that they're delivering out to the end users. And of course, we want to do that securely. It's the data and it's the applications that are the lifeblood of our customers and their companies. And so it does no good to make the data available to everybody if we can't also secure it at the same time. And of course, our many different customers across the different verticals, healthcare, financial industry, government, have to adhere to certain compliances as well, and we want to make that as easy to implement as possible without any extra steps to do so. And then of course we can talk all day about how great a solution is, but if it isn't something that you can afford to implement, if it isn't going to help you save costs long term, it won't go through that cycle and it won't ever get purchased or implemented. Now the Horizon portfolio is actually three very different pieces. We're going to talk mostly about Horizon 7 and our desktop and application delivery today. But just know that we also have solutions if you want us to host it out of our cloud. And then we have solutions like Horizon Flex that allow you to deliver a virtualized desktop, but to a local resource. But for the most part, Horizon 7 is your typical VDI along with application virtualization and how we're delivering that and securing it. And then we want to make desktop and application management very easy, very simple for you, IT, to stand up, to manage. And then on top of that, we want to make it a great end user experience. It doesn't matter how easy it is for IT. If you deliver a VDI desktop to somebody and they say, this is great, but I like my physical PC better, I can customize this, I can make it my own. And it does no good if, hey, we've got all these great applications out there, but if I'm trying to access it from my iPhone and it doesn't work, then it's all for nothing, right? And we can do this across multiple different types of applications, across different types of virtual desktops. Of course, we want to do the great user experience. We have certain things like just-in-time desktops and smart policies that I'll get to dive into a bit more in depth on the demo in just a second, that really make virtual desktops and virtual applications easy to manage and easy to provision. And then, of course, we want to give your users the full capability of customizing their experience and having that experience be the same across their different devices. So me consuming an application sitting in a Starbucks on my Android device is the exact same as me on my Windows 10 desktop sitting in the office. And then of course, it's very important for VMware to make this work in your existing infrastructure. We're not going to make you rework everything you've already done from a virtualization perspective. This sits on top of vSphere and integrates in there. And of course, kind of rehashing the end user experience is flexible and hybrid delivery, right? Allow the end user to choose how they consume their applications, make them available, and make them secure. One of the biggest parts of making an application available is single sign-on and identity management. So we give your end users the ability to log into a single portal called VMware Identity Manager and access all of their different types of applications from one resource. Now, VMware is unique in that when we say all of your different type of applications, we do truly mean it. So we're talking about software as a service type applications like Salesforce, like Office 365, like Google Apps. We're talking about published applications, virtual applications like Horizon can deliver. We're also talking about virtual desktops, and then any type of thin-app applications you may have in the environment as well. So everything to one portal, up and running and live. And at this point, I'm going to flip over to the demo and show you a bit about that Identity Manager portal I just spoke about and how Horizon, our platform for end-user computing, ties this all together and makes it available to your end users. So, as you can see, hopefully, I have a Chrome browser open. I'm logged into our VMware test drive. This is our Identity Manager portal. This is the one time throughout the day I'll provide my user credentials to access the portal, and then from then on, everything else, all the different applications are delivered to me via single sign-on. So here are my apps. I'm using Chrome browser, and of course I'm on a Windows 10 desktop here, but don't at all get that stuck in your minds that this is the only type of way we can do this. This exact same look, this exact same experience is available to an iOS user, to a Mac user, to somebody on Android or a Chromebook, and of course Linux users as well. Similar feel, similar experience, delivered to any modern browser, so Chrome, Firefox, IE, Edge, Safari, and so on. Now you can see here, I have all my different types of applications. So I have published applications, what we'll call virtual applications. So if I want to consume just Excel or Word by themselves without being tied to a virtual desktop, I can do that. I also have my true software as a service applications like AirWatch, BlueJeans, Salesforce, and so on. So it can log me into these third-party applications without having to re-provide my credentials. And then I also have true virtual desktop. So I have an RDS desktop, Win 10, Win 7. I also have an NVIDIA GPU-enabled desktop down here. And I could also just as easy have an Ubuntu desktop or a Red Hat desktop or whatnot that I can deliver out to my end users virtually. Now, everything you're going to see from Identity Manager here that you're seeing down to our virtual desktops and our virtual applications are all delivered based on a user's credentials. So if you have a salesperson versus an HR person versus somebody in finance, the applications can be similar, but which applications are delivered depends on those credentials. So IT isn't having to do a lot of rework. They're just saying, hey, I've already got this person in the security group in Active Directory. They log into their Identity Manager portal and have access to the applications that they need. Behind the scenes, IT builds a whole catalog of apps that the users can kind of pick and choose from, add to their landing page to once again customize that experience to make it as useful to them as possible. For example, if I wanted to add CyberDuck to my landing page, just quickly click Add. All of a sudden, I've got CyberDuck waiting for me here, and I can launch into that, or if I don't want something, I can just delete it. Now, I want to show you the VMware live running in production version of this. So this is what I actually use day in, day out here at VMware. It's the first thing I'll log into when I start my day, and it gives you an example of the type of customization that you can do. Now, I'm a salesperson, I'm a product specialist, and so you have a lot of things, of course, devoted to that, but then there's typical VMware employee resources like ADP, if I want to check my paycheck. I can look at my 401k through Fidelity. Both of those are, of course, third-party websites that I can log into very quickly, very easily. And because it's done through single sign-on, here I am accessing a third-party resource, but I'm not having to re-provide my credentials. Here I am at adp.com. It knows I'm Zach Meyer. I can check my pay stub, look at my W-2. Maybe more importantly for IT, I can log into things like Office 365. So double-click or single-click that icon right there. Automatically authenticates me into Office. I have access to all my different resources, my OneDrive, and so on, without having to provide those credentials. Now, once again, same experience across multiple devices, but why do you care? Why do you as IT care, and why do you as the end user care? Well, IT can build this catalog of applications and quickly and easily provision it out to all the different end users. Because it's all done through single sign-on and your folks aren't having to provide credentials for every different resource, and remember, 50 different passwords, you're not getting those really annoying trouble tickets saying, hey, I forgot my password, can you please reset it? So IT loves it from that aspect, saves them time, reduces help desk tickets. And the end users love it because, hey, every one of the resources I would ever need to access are here in a single location, and I don't have to build and maintain an Excel doc that is simply my password to each resource I'd want to access. Let me flip back over to my demo portal real quick. Now, I'm going to dive into a virtual desktop here in a second, and then I'll dive into a virtual application a little bit later. Whenever you're doing this through Horizon, you have the option of accessing your virtual desktops either right here in the browser, so no local software needs to be installed. I just quickly and easily click this icon, dive right into it. And then, of course, we have kind of the legacy software client that can be installed on the machine itself that'll receive that virtual desktop. Both are accessible, of course, through any device. So I have an Android client, an iOS client, Windows, Mac, so on and so forth. For now, though, I'll open it up in the browser to show you guys what that looks like. Now, one of the things you have to think about, or had to think about at least in the past, whenever it came to VDI, was what do I want the end user experience to be? Do I want to deliver out a desktop that they're allowed to customize, that they're allowed to make changes to? Or do I want to base it off of a single image, push that image out to an end user whenever they log into their desktop, and then any changes they make will be wiped away, cleaned up whenever they log off? And it was kind of a back and forth between the end users and IT, right? End users want customization. They want to be able to change their background and mess with their applications and make that desktop their own. That's the experience they prefer. Now, IT wants the single image that they maintain because that's easy for them, saves them time, effort, of course. And really, you couldn't do both blended together. And we definitely can nowadays with what I'll call VDI 2.0 and Horizon Enterprise. So for example, let me show you one of the big features, one of the larger improvements we've made to Horizon over the recent couple of years, called App Volumes. And App Volumes is the idea that I want to extract applications away from the master VDI image. I want to make that master image as basic, as simple as possible, and then just attach the applications a certain type of user needs whenever they're logging into their virtual desktop. For instance, if I have a salesperson, maybe they need access to Microsoft Office, that suite of tools, maybe Adobe Acrobat for creating quotes, and then maybe they also need their CRM application. Now, someone in finance is going to need very different applications. They probably also need Office, but maybe they need QuickBooks or something else along those lines to get their job done. Back in the day, that would have been me building multiple different base images or golden images to deliver out to each user, and then I would have to maintain and update those, even for common applications across all the different images. We've totally removed that. That idea is long gone, and now we're going to attach just the applications folks need. So using App Volumes, I'm going to attach about 50 brand new applications to this live running virtual desktop, and you'll see those pop up instantly in just a second here. Now, for demo purposes, I'm doing this using a batch file. It'll take a couple seconds and then we'll be off and running. This is going to be transparent to your end users when it's live running in production. Bob from HR logs in, Bob gets his Windows 7 desktop, he gets Microsoft Office applications attached, and he gets everything else he needs from an HR perspective to get his job done. So you can see just like that, I have all these brand new applications. Now, these aren't virtual applications, they're not published out, they're not running somewhere else. These are locally installed on this virtual desktop. So let me do a refresh real quick here and kind of show you what that looks like in Control Panel. You can see that every one of the ones we just attached is now here, it now shows up, it's locally installed, and I'm up to 88 programs. So in a matter of seconds, I delivered out all these different applications to the user who needs them. As quickly as we attach them, we can of course take them away. So I'll detach every one of those. And so a use case here may be, hey, you get a bulletin and your chief security officer calls you up and says, hey, X and X application is compromised, we're going to get hacked, someone's going to encrypt our data and then try to sell it back to us. You can say, hold on the line, Mr. Chief Security Officer, I'm going to literally make that application disappear off your desktop, and then once you can patch it, you can literally make it reappear on a user's machine just that quick. We're not just limited to applications though. We can also attach any file or folder structure we want to a desktop, and we can also attach underlying apps or resources or supporting tools that make applications run correctly. So in this example, I'm going to make this person a developer desktop, which is pretty much me just attaching Visual Studio and then everything else that is required to make Visual Studio run. Now, you IT people know out there that Visual Studio is about a 2 to 3 hour install, depending on what type of machine you're putting it on, and I just made it pop up and run in a couple of seconds. We'll do another refresh here, and you can now see on top of Visual Studio, I have IIS and all these .NET frameworks, SQL Server, Management Studio, all this stuff installed just to support Visual Studio, and I did that in a matter of seconds. So incredibly simple for IT to maintain and control. And because it's built into what we call that app stack, it's that layer I attach, I can manage it from that layer as well. So if I need to do an update to Visual Studio or anything that's in the application layer, it's just me pushing it to that, and then the next time folks log into their virtual desktop, they have the latest and greatest version running. So let me flip out of that real quick, and I'm going to launch into a different desktop real quick, and I will use the client this time around, so the locally installed Horizon client that's going to receive this virtual desktop session. And what we'll show you this time is the ability to customize an application. So delivering applications out to someone from a common place is one step, but how do we allow the user to make that their own and to really give themselves the best experience possible? So give this just a second to load. And this is going to be another virtual desktop running. I can definitely have multiples running at once. And what I'll be doing is playing with the Paint application. Now we have this set up leveraging one of our tools built into Horizon called User Environment Manager. And User Environment Manager is going to snapshot and deliver persistency to applications and to the operating system per each individual user. So real quick, just take note of how it opened. I had it kind of in a slim vertical layout. I had these two toolbars open. What we're going to do is make it big. Maybe we'll turn off this toolbar, turn on the color swatches, and we'll go and do some really fancy art here. Blow that up so everybody can read it. And we'll save this. Now, I've made this how I like it, right? I have the toolbars I need, I have everything running just like I want it. Now I'm going to close this application out. Now maybe I was at work, I was in Paint, I was doing my job, and then I decided, you know what, it's 5 o'clock, I'd rather do this from Starbucks grabbing a coffee. And it doesn't make sense for me to be at Starbucks on my iPad and log into a full Windows desktop just to work with Paint. So this time I'm going to launch Paint as a virtual application, and I'll launch it in the browser. Now this version of Paint is entirely separate from that previous one. They only share the same name, the resources and everything are entirely different, but what you'll see is the settings, the changes I made to Paint as it ran on my desktop are going to apply to Paint as it runs as a virtual application. So exactly like I left it, same toolbars open, and I can even go to recent files and open up my previously saved image. So just that quick, I closed up the application in one place, open it in another in my browser or on an iPad or on an Android device, and it's exactly the same as I left it. And to kind of prove that I didn't have this pre-configured, let's open up all the toolbars this time, and we'll shrink this down nice and small. Close it out again, flip back over to that virtual desktop, launch Paint again, and you'll see it's exactly how I left it. Horizon makes it very simple for you to maintain this persistency as IT and deliver it out uniquely to the end users. And the end users want this, they want this experience because it is their own. It's just like they have that physical PC in front of them. So with that, let me bring back up my slide presentation. And I want to talk in just a couple of minutes that I have left here about a use case, about a customer who is taking advantage of this technology and is really seeing a great benefit. And that is university hospitals out of Cleveland. So the medical use case is a huge one for VDI. You have incredibly sensitive data that you want to secure, but you also want to make available to all your clinical employees so that they can take good care of their customers. And what we were able to do with university hospitals was deliver virtual desktops and virtual applications to the entire staff up and down. And it is the always-on point of care and follow-me desktop, meaning I'm a clinician, I'm looking at a patient's medical records up in my office, I have access to my virtual desktop there, all the applications I need, they're customized to my liking, and then let's say that patient is downstairs in their room. Without having to do anything, without logging off, logging back on, I can walk away from that desktop. I can go down and see the patient, log into the terminal down there, and it pulls up literally right where I left off. Everything is the same, my workflow is still there, and I'm ready to interact with that patient. There's no disconnecting in one location, waiting an hour, or not an hour, but a minute or so to log back in another. It just works and comes up very quickly. We were able to replace most all of their physical devices, fat clients we'll call them, throughout the hospitals with thin clients, and reducing costs there and delivering a better experience to the physicians and ultimately better care to their patients as well. Now with that, just real quick before I turn it back over to Chris and Kim, I want to talk about resources you can use on VMware.com and provided by VMware to get started, to look a bit more into Horizon and what all it entails. We have a free virtual desktop assessment that you can take advantage of, runs in your environment, takes a look at all the different users, what they're doing, and whether they're good candidates for VDI. And after about a month of collecting this data, it'll spit it out and really give you an idea of what I can do and how I can take advantage of VDI. We also have our hands-on labs, hol.vmware.com. Great place to dive into the software, test it out, work with it in our sandbox, so you don't have to mess with your existing hardware, get a good feel for it, and kind of, I guess, gain a better understanding of the software, how it works, without having to deploy it on your local hardware. And then, building a business case is huge. You want to make sure that you have everything you need to present this to the powers that be, to say, hey, here's why we want to do VDI, here's how it can save us money, here's how it can save us time, and we really help you out at whychooseyou.com. So with that, guys, appreciate y'all's time. Let me turn it back over to the rest of the panelists and open it up for any questions.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Zach. Great information. Just amazing to see how far the technology has come, and certainly timely given all of the pressures on IT to deliver that personalized end user experience across every device. Just amazing. Thank you for diving into the demo. That's fabulous. At this time, we will open it up for questions. If you have any questions, please post them to the questions pane and we'll fit a few in. We do have a few coming in for you, Zach. First question, does it support Windows 10? Great question. Can you dive in, Zach?
Yeah, sure thing. So we do support Windows 10 as of Horizon 6.2 and of course in Horizon 7, which we just launched earlier this year. So your desktops will work out of the box with very little customization. So absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Next question, is there an upgrade path from Horizon Standard to Enterprise?
Yes, there is. We do have both an upgrade path from the licensing perspective, meaning that we can sell you a SKU that will move you from your existing licensing up into enterprise. And then, of course, just as important, if not more so, is the upgrade path from the technology itself, like what you have installed. And yes, we can take what you've done in Horizon Standard today and move it into the Horizon Enterprise implementation with that application layering and individual user persistency.
Great, thank you. One last question we'll squeeze in before we wrap for today. Can I assign multiple app stacks to a single user?
You definitely can, and that's actually a very common practice. So we kind of mentioned there are certain applications that make sense to deliver to all different types of folks. And so what you can do is you can build an app stack for Office and for maybe Adobe Acrobat or those really commonly used apps and attach that to everybody who logs in. And then you can build a second or third or fourth app stack depending on the user, the use case. So if we have that person in finance, they get the main Office app stack, then they get the QuickBooks app stack and whatever else a finance person needs. So we can definitely allow that customization so that you're not necessarily looking around these giant app stacks between different desktop users.
Fantastic. We do have one more question coming in. We've got a little bit of time. To minimize sticker shock, can we use existing clients as our dummy terminals? And also, can we virtualize Mac as well?
So you can absolutely use your existing fat clients as kind of dummy terminals to receive a virtual desktop or a virtual application. That's very common as well. It's something a lot of our customers do off the get-go to kind of cut down the initial CapEx costs. And then later on, if you so choose, you can move to that thin client or that zero client implementation. So we definitely support it. As far as supporting Mac, I guess it depends on which way you're looking at it. We today cannot virtualize and deliver out Apple OS X as a guest, right? So we can't deliver out, like we can Win 7 or Win 10, Mac OS X as a virtual desktop. On the other hand, though, an existing Mac user can receive a Win 7 or Win 10 virtual desktop and work as if that was their primary desktop or whatnot. That Mac user leaves, they go to the airport, and they can pick up right where they left off from their iPad or from their Android device or whatnot.
Awesome. So just to clarify in the Mac then, Zach, that requires the installation of the Windows operating platform, the Mac version of it, correct?
Correct, right. So you'd be virtualizing a Windows OS out of the data center and piping that out to a Mac piece of hardware.
Great. Okay, thank you. Awesome. That concludes our questions for the day. Thank you so much, Zach. Excellent information, and again, great to see the demo and just how simple that has all become to manage through Horizon.